take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks, JC. And hopefully everybody enjoyed the time in the breakout rooms, getting to chat and connect with folks. So again, I'm thrilled to have Bill and Andy here from Aver Healthcare. So we'll be today, touching on three things, just sort of their background and sort of how they got into healthcare and some of their lessons learned in their previous ventures. Then we'll jump into Aver in detail, a little bit more about what they do in value-based care and some of the things they see going on there. And then we'll wrap up just some broader thoughts on healthcare entrepreneurship in Atlanta and any lessons learned there. And as we go through this, as you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll save them for the end, but feel free to put any questions in the chat and JC will help us go through those. So without further ado, thanks, Bill and Andy. Appreciate you joining us here today.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So I think just to, maybe to get us started, I'll start with Bill first and then Andy. One of the things I always like to start with is, why did you decide to get into healthcare? And I know, Bill, you've been in healthcare, for a while, at several different places, and Andy, you're more a technologist and coming into healthcare as well. So maybe Bill, just start with you of, what prompted you to get into healthcare and what have you liked about being in the healthcare space?
Sure. And AT, thanks for having us, and thanks to the Atlanta Ventures crew for putting this together. Again, I'm Bill Nordmark. I'm president and CEO of Aver. It's a real simple story. My grandfather parents worked in the day when, physician practices were more like family businesses. So I grew up in and around a doctor home. My dad was senior vice president of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Georgia for 18 years and then was in the healthcare space. And so, quite frankly, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? And so they had paved a way for me. And so I realized after, getting out of school and trying to create my own path that, there was already one laid for me. So why go outside and do something different? So jumped into healthcare, but now that I've been in it for 20 plus years, it is an amazing opportunity to really truly transform an industry that has so many challenges. And so I'm very excited about transforming something that is very challenging, very needed, and always exciting. So that's why I'm in it and why I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Andy, maybe give us your perspective of, technologists across a lot of companies, but, coming into healthcare and what's exciting for you about healthcare.
A short story of getting into healthcare is thanks to Bill. He twisted my arm and asked me to come in to join him on this exciting adventure. But I've been in and around different parts of healthcare. As all you know, healthcare is probably has the vastest landscape out there, from physical therapy to devices to claims to analytics and that's part of why it's exciting and part of why it's so complicated. Why I got into healthcare was to join the venture with Bill and our team that he's built at Aver, and really trying to transform healthcare and how we look at it, and which you'll hear more about shortly. I've been in and around startups, and startups have been in my blood since the early 90s.
Very good. Perfect combination of healthcare plus startup. Let me do one more sort of background question before we jump into Aver and what's going on there. But obviously you both have had experience, working across, Andy, different startups and Bill, several different healthcare companies. Any sort of lessons learned from those previous experiences that you took with you as you came into what you're doing here at Aver?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think as an entrepreneur, there are three critical items that you have to have in any business that you're starting or as a startup. And I think they've been items that I've learned from, and Andy has probably learned from as well, and then that we're carrying forward in this opportunity. The first item is you have to pervasively know your market and your industry. You have to know everything about the space. You have to be prepared for the space. You have to know what the challenges are. You have to know the pitfalls of everybody who's come before you. And if you know the space better than your peers and, the companies you're competing against, you will have a leg up, to being successful. The second thing is, an entrepreneur is you have to fail fast, right? And so the faster you fail, the better you're going to be, and the faster you learn from those failures, the better you're going to be at, being successful. All too often, entrepreneurs don't fail fast enough. Capital is, especially in the early stage of business, capital is limited, right? You're raising a couple $1 million in a seed round, maybe, then you're trying to get to your first institutional round, Series A. You don't have the luxury of, taking a long time. So you have to fail fast and learn from those. And then the third thing is, all too often, I find younger startups chase shiny balls. And what I mean by that is this syndrome of going into a meeting and sitting down with your first sales opportunity, and they say, well, if the product did this, then I'd probably buy it. And then you go back to the team and you say, oh, we got to add this feature because these guys will buy it if we add this feature. And then you go to the next meeting, and the next meeting says, well, if it had this, I'll buy it. Right. And then your dev team is now chasing that shiny ball and feature. And then all of a sudden you've gone to 10 meetings in the past month. Your developers are working on 10 features. Probably none of them are truly aligned or connected. They're not part of your overall strategy. You're just chasing sales wins because you need revenue and you need sales. And so what ends up happening is you're basically diluting your knowledge, you're diluting your team's value, you're diluting your strategy to chase these shiny balls instead of figuring out why the customer wants that feature and saying to them, well, I can put it on a roadmap and it'll be in the next version. Do you still want to buy it today? Right. And so those three metrics have been huge learning experiences. And I will tell you, as the company scales, you find those three things happening all the time. They're just at a bigger scale, and the mistakes get bigger and more painful.
I love that, Bill. Let me follow up on that real quick, because I think that third one is super interesting, that I see it all the time. I've personally made these mistakes before, where they say, go build X, Y, Z, and then we'll buy it. And I go build it and say, here it is. And then they come up with some other excuse why they won't buy it. Right. And so really testing that sales process in addition to the focus. I'm a huge fan of what you're saying there. On the first one, you talked about sort of the market expertise. I love that as well. And obviously, there's plenty of books written on things like the challenger sale and other things where you're the expert that's teaching them, your customers, about the space as well. Tell me more about how do you, for anybody who's in healthcare or new to healthcare, what are some practical tips on how to get some of that expertise if you don't have it today?
Yeah, so I don't think you can read it in a book. Healthcare is a space that you actually have to get out and you have to live it, right? So you have to get out, you have to talk to physicians. You have to go to a doctor's office. You have to experience what happens behind the door in the actual office. You have to experience at an insurance company and talk to executives and understand the challenges and what they do on a daily basis. And all too often the challenge that happens is folks don't understand the pain points and the problems that the industry has and the challenges that the industry has before they start trying to fix what's going on. And I'll just be honest with you. We have the largest case study potentially ever in not understanding a market and failing in the partnership between Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan, right? Three of the most powerful companies, Amazon, arguably the most powerful tech company, all jumped in to start Haven and failed miserably within 18 months time. And I actually had conversations with friends saying they will fail miserably because none of them knew the market. none of them took the time to understand that healthcare is different. And none of them took the time to understand what the true pain points are they're going to solve. And 3 of the strongest companies in the world fail, at a healthcare venture. So with unlimited capital, right? So, I think it's just an example of understanding the space is critical.
Oh, great point there. And so I want to come back at the end to sort of, why is healthcare different? I think that's a good conversation to circle back there, but, maybe just transitioning just for folks on Aver a little bit now. Maybe Bill, just give sort of the folks the overview of what you all do and sort of the nature of the business.
Sure. So we're a growth equity company. We're hopefully, I was telling AT earlier, and the team about to kick off finalizing a Series D investment. So we're a little bit later stage. Our moonshot is to redefine how healthcare is consumed and paid for. Basically we have a stack of services and solutions that allows you to design healthcare programs. We have an analytics engine that allows you to take those new healthcare designs, analyze historically, if you've been doing these programs, what would they have looked like? We help you model them forward. And then we have a team that goes out and contracts physicians and networks. And then we have a big claims transaction processing platform that once those designs are in place, then the designs, we administer the claims and the healthcare transactions that go with those designs. So we work with large insurance companies, national insurance companies, large Blue Cross Blue Shield plans. We have a partnership with Cerner on the provider side and other companies. So that's what the tech stack does. If I could give you an analogy of what we're trying to accomplish, let me explain to you about how healthcare is broken. So each of you have probably flown, maybe haven't flown since the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, you took a flight on Delta, Southwest, or another airline. And could you imagine if you were jumping on an airplane and you just bought your ticket, you didn't pay for it, and then you jumped on the plane, and then when you landed at your destination, you got a bill from the snack people, you got a bill from the parking lot, you got a bill from the TSA for the baggage, you got a bill for the use of the restroom, you got a bill for your seatbelt, you got a bill for the flight attendant that was at the door, and then all of a sudden you also got this bill for a $10,000 airport usage fee. And you had to figure out all of how to pay for all those bills, right? And you had to pay all those people individually. That's not how airline flights work, right? You pay Delta, you buy your ticket, you go take the flight, you come home, and you're done. So that's what we're doing for healthcare. So in the state of North Carolina, we design and administer, for example, knee replacements, where when the patient walks into the doctor's office, they immediately know that the knee replacement is going to cost them, say whatever it is, $20,000. And before they've even had the procedure, they exactly know what they owe. They know exactly how much the procedure is going to be for them, and they don't get any bills after that, right? And so we have totally transformed how it's paid for. We've transformed how it's delivered. And we're delivering on this airplane analogy of, you don't consume goods and services that way, but you can in healthcare with our tech platform.
What a great analogy. I think it's so true, right? That and who would take a flight that you wouldn't know any of those things and get all these bills back? Yet we're stuck with a healthcare system where you have to do it that way historically.
That's right. That's right.
So Bill, along those lines, tell me a little bit about how what you do has evolved from the beginning. And then I know some of the early challenges, and then when you came aboard sort of to the direction it's going now. Tell me about how that has evolved, and how did you know where to start to get to where you are today?
Sure. So for the entrepreneurs on the phone, I think everybody will can relate to this. The company started as an analytics business. 2 founders, great founders, very successful guys. Maybe a little before its time. So, one of the challenges with pretty much all startups, especially in the tech space, is, the market timing's got to be right. And so as an entrepreneur, and I go back to my earlier comments of learnings, you as an entrepreneur have to figure out either your technology is a little before its time, and you've got to figure out what can the customer buy from me today that, brings the timing forward to where I'm at, or what do I need to alter to meet the customer on their timeline? And so we started with this tech stack in 2010 around analytics, where, the Obamacare legislation had come out. These programs were starting to hit, but they were very nascent. And so when I joined the company, I went out to talk to customers, and it was really truly getting in there and talking to the customers and listening to what they had to say. And by and large, they said, look, the reality is you can give me do anything with it, right? I'm an insurance company. You can tell me till I'm blue in the face that Andy is the best orthopedic surgeon. He's got the best cost, best quality, but I don't know what to do with that information. And so that's where we started to evolve our product strategy and realize that their challenges and their pain points were not necessarily the pain points that our tech stack had been designed for. It was the scale and implementation of our tech stack was the problem. And so that's where we added the network services, and we added the transaction processing platform, and it gave us a scale to the business. And then, quite frankly, like everything is timing. We had a series of being at the right place at the right time. We were prepared from a product roadmap perspective, and as timing hit, we were there. So take COVID, for example. Probably like everybody on this phone, I got a lot of buddies who are in the financial services space, and for my whole career, they were like, you're in healthcare, you don't have to worry about any downturn. If the market crashes in 2008, you're recession proof and all this type of stuff. Well, we're not pandemic proof. Okay. So we didn't take into account of that. And so I never thought I'd see the day when, back last year for a quarter and a half, there were no elective procedures done. Right. So if you had a knee that you need replaced, you needed anything but a heart or baby was really not done for a quarter and a half. And we really took a look at our business, and we were really scared. We were like, man, this could be it. And then coming out of COVID, what we realized was all these physicians and practices that were not in a value-based program almost went out of business. And so we realized that tailwind was huge for us. And now the company has gone gangbusters. So some of it was, being there at the right time. Some of it was listening to the market, and some of it was just opportunity.
I love the comment on timing there. To your point, if you lay the right groundwork and are positioned for it, you can ride some of those, tailwinds. How did you think about getting the team aligned internally as you were talking to customers, starting to make some of those shifts and what needed to happen in the business?
Well, I mean, I think it's twofold. As a lead entrepreneur in the room, right? I mean, there's a certain gut feel that you have to have, right? I mean, some of this is, I wouldn't say it's arrogance, but the world is going to tell you as an entrepreneur that you're wrong almost all the time, and you got to power through that. And there's going to be faced with adversity all the time. And so I think the key was to not get too high and not get too low. And as the team saw me feeling confident as a leader, and the leadership team felt confident that we were not too high, not too low, and really learned, it was really successful. I would also say that, and that's why Andy's here, as an entrepreneur, you have to surround yourself with top-notch talent. And when you surround yourself with top-notch talent, you can lean on that talent to make big decisions, make big plays. And I'm fortunate to have an awesome team that I could lean on and sometimes listen to them on what they're seeing in the market that I'm not seeing. And so, it's about a family. It's about all getting together. It's about all, rowing in the same direction. And
But
you know,
there's also about that team challenging and we're not always right about everything, and we need to challenge each other and provide that space. One of our core core values is radical candor, and when we think differently than one of our teammates, we invoke the radical candor card, and we can say what we want to in a safe space, and that doesn't leave the room. So in putting that culture together to allow for that is huge. Because if the entrepreneur just goes off and does his own thing all the time, eventually it's going to crash.
Right. And I think it's a great point just on sort of the culture and the challenging that, fail fast. You were talking about Bill earlier, but also that challenging mindset that, right. Challenging each other, challenging the team for the good of the team. Right. And how do you create a culture where that is acceptable? Right. Because there's some places that try that and don't do that very well. How did you all create a culture where that was acceptable?
Well, I mean, I think it's, it has to be intentional, right? And so, we foster the dialogue and the radical candor. I think if you were going to be in our leadership meetings, they're pretty heavy banter and pretty heavy back and forth, but when we walk out, we're all on the same page. And so, I think that it takes work. You have to work at it, and we built a culture canvas, as Andy mentioned. So I just think we've made it a point to make it something that's important. It's part of the core values of the company. I don't know what, Andy, what would you add?
Nothing I can add to that. I think we take our hiring process extremely important to us and to the company, because we're hiring the wrong people, then it's very painful. And you may have set yourself back for 6 months. And I think that goes to learning to fail fast, not only in the product and the market, but also the people. But also being able to sit in a group like Bill talked about, the leadership team, and have those challenging conversations, not get your feelings hurt and run home and hide about it. But we're all in it. We're all pulling in the same direction. If you're not all pulling in the same direction, then you're pulling apart.
Good. Great stuff. Let me transition a little bit here. I know we probably got 6 minutes left, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. I see some questions have been coming in, but on the fundraising side, you start at the beginning, Bill, that, hopefully you're in the process right now of raising some money. And obviously you guys have raised, over 50 million, over a couple rounds previously. That's a question that always comes up from entrepreneurs is like, how do I think about fundraising? How do I do it the right way? Is it necessary? So any sort of, thoughts on how you all thought about fundraising, as well as lessons learned for other entrepreneurs who may be going through a fundraising process in the future?
Sure. Well, by default, I think as entrepreneurs, especially if you're CEO of whether a startup company or entrepreneur, founder, et cetera, one of the things that you have to think about is you're always fundraising. You're always raising money. Because every time you are on a Zoom, unfortunately today, that's the world we live in, or if you're out talking to people, you are evangelizing your story. And when you're evangelizing your story, you are telling people and getting people excited about your venture, your moonshot, or whatever. So you're always, fundraising. I think the key to fundraising is knowing your goals and knowing what you're trying to accomplish, and then matching that up to what your resource needs are, right? And so, if you can wait as long as you can to take institutional money, i.e., venture money or something, awesome, right? Grow the company as fast as you can without it. When you get to raising venture money or private equity money, which are great opportunities to have, make sure the most important thing that I can share with everybody is make sure that the valuation that's on the business is something that's achievable. The biggest error I see with entrepreneurs is too high a valuation in a round And then what happens, almost always is you don't meet your numbers after that. And your valuation is now over its skis, and the next round is a down round, right? And yes, everybody wants to have a $1 billion company, and everybody wants to be, the next unicorn. But the bottom line is, us as entrepreneurs carry the burden and carry the execution risk on meeting that valuation. So you're actually better off blowing out your numbers, making sure they're lofty and attainable, and showing that over your A and B round, you just blew off the doors on the numbers. That next round will be your big round versus going way too soon for that big valuation, which you won't meet, and then you're on that downward trajectory.
That's a great point, Bill, because that's one that I see a lot and try and talk with entrepreneurs is I always like to, all right, whatever valuation that you could raise at now, I always think one round ahead. And for you to raise up on that, what metrics do you have to hit for that next round? And to your point, is that achievable? What cushion do you have? Because to your point, much better to take a maybe slightly lower valuation now with partners that you want to work with and be able to achieve that versus to your point, once you get off that treadmill of a down round, that many other complications come into the business.
Well, and here's the other thing. You don't know what the market's going to hold in 24 months when you go back out to market, right? Mm-hmm. So all these companies that are getting $1 billion valuations right now, right? If you've got a $1 billion valuation right now and your investors want 3 to 5x on that valuation, that means that you got to get your next round at, $3, $4, $5 billion. We're in a hot market right now, but let's say in 24 months that market turns, and now we're at EBITDA multiples, not revenue multiples. And you were trying to exit around that, when you needed that exit to be 5 billion, and the market's going to pay, 750 million for your company, right? To your point, AT, you got to think about that next, what's around the corner, or what could be around the corner for you.
Yeah. Well, last question here, and then we'll open up to some Q&A. I really appreciate all your great thoughts here. A lot of great nuggets in there. But one of the things you mentioned earlier was just, healthcare is different. So maybe just, elaborate that sort of to wrap up here of what makes healthcare different. And as an entrepreneur, how do you best tackle and handle that?
Yeah. So, I think healthcare is different from the standpoint that we do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? So, the industry is notorious for taking acronyms and, reusing them over time, just naming it something different. It's a very complex space because of, as I mentioned, how it's consumed and paid for. Think about it as a consumer, as us on the phone, as a consumer of a good and a service. We don't even know what it costs before we're buying it. And so, there's a lot of nuances to the space that, are really complex. And let's face it, it's what, $3 trillion of GDP. So it's an enormous space. And then the problem is the end consumer, us here on the phone, we're part of the problem, but we don't want to admit we're part of the problem. And the reason we're part of the problem is that we don't value our healthcare needed. And the example of that, quite frankly, is, when you look at the exchanges, when the exchanges came out under Obamacare, the overwhelming majority of people that bought health insurance on the exchange picked the bronze plan and basically went from previously better coverage to worse coverage. And they're basically walking around with a $6,500 deductible, which is basically catastrophic coverage. It's not going to cover anything. And so we have a tendency to eat what we want, drink what we want, have a lifestyle like we want it, and not value paying for it. And then when we need it, it's like, oh my gosh, I need it to be there. And so that's a real hard dynamic when your customer is not engaged in the industry, and then, kind of has that dynamic.
No, it makes a lot of sense that, to your point, in the healthcare consumers, the role they play across many fronts there. So I know we're getting close to the top of the hour here. A bunch of questions have been coming in. JC, I don't know if you want to pull up and start with a few of the ones that have been coming in, and I can have some other ones as well at the end.
Sure, we've got a lot, so hopefully we can get through. And this is from a little early on, so you maybe just kind of follow up on this. But one question was, do you think that the healthcare landscape and innovation can continue to evolve without some form of government directive? Or say maybe another way, can private enterprises actually change the system despite big government red tape?
So the answer is yes, we can change it absolutely without government involvement. I would tell you that government involvement will only make matters worse. It will not help anything. The CMS programs, Medicare, Medicaid, they're not run well at all either. They've got the same challenges all the other programs do. I would tell you that I was telling this to AT before. I would tell you there's too much innovation in healthcare, right? We are innovating the outside of the world, but we're not innovating the guts that really need to be fixed. And that's what our moonshot is in our business. So let me tell you the example that I'll give you. Telehealth is not innovative. Telehealth has been around forever. And telehealth has only become relevant because of a global pandemic. And so I'm not really high on telehealth personally. I think anything that needs a global pandemic to become relevant is probably not a very good business, but it's become relevant. Here's the funny thing. It's paid for the same way as an office visit. So it's a fee-for-service transaction. It is reimbursed due to the CARES Act at the same rates as an office visit. And as soon as the industry goes back to more in-person style interactions, and the industry will remove the rates that it's paid for at the same rates as office visits, physicians are going to make more money on office visits, so they're going to want to do less telehealth. And so it hasn't changed anything about healthcare is paid for. It hasn't saved any money. It has merely just provided the opportunity to see somebody over Zoom versus seeing them in the office. Has it had some consumer convenience? Maybe, but it's not innovative. And so to truly innovate healthcare, we've got to focus on the inside of how it's paid for. Government is not going to do that. They are a tailwind. They've got the BPCI program. You can look it up. I can share it with JC and AT. It's a value-based program, and they've mandated it for 2020.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. I have another one. If you guys can hear me okay, it looks like my internet is off, but what's some advice on how to approach market research just in, like if cold calls and emails are getting ignored, Googling is giving some insight, but how do entrepreneurs go out there and get research and, establish that market and just ask questions if they're being ignored?
Well, I mean, I think like anything, you've got a network, right? And so you've got to look at your network, whether it's your board. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a company, you got to look at your board, and your board has to open doors for you. I know Andy's on some boards of some, early stage companies. The most valuable asset you have as a young entrepreneur is your board. And so your board knows people, and you have to network into the market. And as I mentioned, earlier, as an entrepreneur, you're always fundraising, you're always telling your story. And so you have to get in and network to the areas that you need. And if you need access to a hospital, or you need access to, an insurance company, you've got to leverage the contacts that you have and the network you have to get in there. I would also say, you know, in AT, maybe you see this in a lot of Atlanta Ventures companies. One of the challenges that entrepreneurs make is they don't focus on the market that they're in at the early stage, where they can leverage their contacts. So if I'm a brand new startup sitting here in Tech Village and I have a board, I don't need to focus on hospitals in California. I've got 20 hospitals here in Atlanta that are top-notch hospitals in the South. We've got insurance companies here, and my board probably knows executives at Piedmont or Emory or, you know, Kennestone Hospital. And so I need my sphere of getting my market research and my activity to remain here with what I can actually impact. And then once I know all that, then I network into bigger, broader areas. But if I try and just go across the country, I won't get there.
It may sound old school, but quit relying so much on the digital channel and get out in the marketplace and network, like Bill said, network your way into the meetings and the contacts you need to grow your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice.
And I think JC, I'll just, with interest of time, let me just wrap up with one comment here and then sort of, you know, wrap up. But I think they're spot on. Just the focus of specific, you know, market problem and space and leveraging the resources you have, as well as creating your own resources. There's still plenty of conferences available, networking groups like this, other things to get out and meet people and connect and ask for others. That, to your point, just the ability to connect with people, even if you met one new person here and follow up with that could lead to something. So continue to do that networking focus. It does take some effort and time, but can get you there. I know we got 2 minutes left. Just wanted to wrap up real quick with a couple of next steps items. But first, again, thank you so much, Bill and Andy. Appreciate all your stories and advice here. Great stuff for entrepreneurs, and hopefully they're building some great things in healthcare here in Atlanta. So we appreciate all their time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
JC, if you want to pull up the slide here just to show a couple things here. Obviously, we've got our own healthcare site. If you go back one, that you can see our upcoming meetups. These are recorded. You can view any of our past meetups, as well as we post a list of healthcare companies and events. And I want to plug just real quick. Chris and our friends at TAG are putting together an Atlanta healthcare system map. And so they're trying to list and promote any healthcare company in Atlanta. So if you go to that site there, you can copy that and submit your information. They'll follow up with you. But it's a great way to get visibility into Atlanta healthcare companies. And then just upcoming events for us, we'll have our regular Atlanta Startup Combos meetup that's beyond just healthcare in October. And then our next healthcare meetup will be in November. We're either looking to get some folks from Emory or either some healthcare investors as well, likely for the November one. So with that, just wanted to wrap up here again. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us early this morning. Again, Bill, Andy, really appreciate it, and hope you all have a great day.
We're happy to help. Thanks so much.
All right, take care, everyone.